and all these characters, if they got what they wanted through this world, Joker wouldn't be in it. They wouldn't have a relationship with Joker. The only reason why the only reason why Joker is even in this world is because Moroki wanted it to be the case. He wanted him still to have his friends. But it's a paradox. It doesn't make any sense, right?
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Autumn Colors Podcast, the podcast where you can't help but have drinks with a serial killer in this game, apparently. I'm your host, the one who, insert multiple choice option here, the Art Sozosha. Today I'm joined by the gamer that has crippling social anxiety, Bun.
Hello!
Okay.
Yep. I'm Bun. I'm Bun the Secret Boss. I don't have any videos. I literally don't have anything significant. I appear here and there every so once again. Yeah.
That's perfectly fine. Like pretty much all my friends I bring on here don't actually have anything they want to plug. Like literally I did a stream the other day with my friend Arashi, who he doesn't have anything to plug, but it's just like
yeah.
And to anyone wondering the timeline of this, I am recording this middle of December. However, considering the timeline and when I came out with the last episode, if anyone's curious, they can go watch that. It's about the Game Awards. But if just anyone curious, this episode will be out by the time around Christmas or so. So yeah, happy early Christmas.
Yes.
So today, though, we are going to be talking about Persona 5, specifically Persona 5 and Persona 5 Royal. Last time I had a podcast when I invited Kagado. Initially, I think the plan was to have both you and Kagado on. And on one hand, it is kind of like a shame that we did to do that all in one. But on the other hand, at the same time, that conversation, only 2 out of 3 people have beaten Royal in that conversation, so I don't know how that would go.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
I think it's better.
Yeah.
So you got his opinion, and now you'll get my opinion about the whole entire thing. And now you get my opinion about Royal, because I've actually beaten Royal, so.
Yeah. So, Moroso's is just gonna be a discussion on Persona 5 and Royal, so yeah. So first things first, how you doing?
Oh, pretty good. Christmas holidays kicking my ass because I work in a grocery store, so
I know how that feels.
Yeah, I'm a cashier, so it's not the fact that I deal with crappy people. It's just a lot of stuff going through my till. Yeah. A lot of people complaining about prices. I'm like, yeah. I'm sorry.
I used to work in retail for the holidays, and I've had situations where it's just big store, 2 people left, and I'm unfortunately one of them that has to clean up the place in closing.
Oh no.
Yeah. So I know how that feels.
Yeah.
I'm a little anxious and everything personally on my end, but overall I'm trying to deal with it the best I can, because I've been having some serious money issues and everything, but I've been trying to deal with it the best I can, and just going about it day by day, keeping calm and everything is all I can do.
Yeah.
Alright. So thank you for sharing your input on that.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. So, with that out of the way, let's get to the questions and everything. The first question on the board is just, before we get into Persona 5 Royal, just how did you get into Persona?
Okay, so I think the best way to approach this question is to approach how I met Kagado. Because pretty much Persona and Kagado kind of are hand in hand. Yeah. So I found Kagado's channel in, I think, 2012, when he was just starting his Persona 3 playthrough, and I watched his Persona 4, his Persona 3, his Persona 5, and I think after he opened up his Patreon and opened up his Discord, and I wanted to start getting out there and being more open as a person, I think that's what got me into Persona 5, because that was my first Persona game. I had never heard of Persona until one of my friends was just like, hey, like, he was like, you should watch this guy. He's so funny. And, like, it was, like, one of his inspirations. So I was like, okay, fine. I watch a lot of YouTube. I like to watch, like, gaming channels, all this. I'll watch this guy. And I enjoyed his content. I thought he was very funny. So I started to enjoy his Persona videos. And then once Persona 5 hit, that's when I was like, you know what? I've never gotten a PlayStation before. I don't like ordering things online, but I want to do it. So I ordered a PlayStation 4 Pro because my grandmother gave me some money, and that was a hassle and a half. Like, that whole entire situation, I effed up on my address. It got shipped. It got sent back. I had to reorder it again. That was a time and a half. But I finally got it. I played the entire game. Fucking loved it. Yeah. I think, like, Persona 5 is, like, top tier gaming. And Royal, I think, really, like, upgraded on the gameplay for that and made it a lot more fun. I can understand why Kagero might not be enjoying it all that much, because a lot of it is based around, like, the quality of life improvements that they put into the game, like being able to do more stuff that raises, like, your traits and all that. There's the games. We haven't even gotten to that one place where you can actually, like, play games and, like, up your party stats and stuff like that.
The game
corner, the darts and the pool. Oh, we haven't even got to that part yet. I've been, like, trying to hold dearly onto that, be like, nobody's saying anything, I swear to God. Like, show him that this game is actually fun, we're just not there yet. But, yeah, that's how I got into Persona.
Yeah, personally for me, it's just anyone who didn't see the last podcast and just now joining. Personally, it's just, I would recommend go seeing the first podcast because there was a lot me and Kagero said, but just anyone who hasn't. I've voiced my opinions. Basically, it was like, I don't know, middle school, like sometime running what he says, like 2012, sometime 2014, I don't remember. But it was like, I was dealing with overzealous JoJo fans, and I tried getting to JoJo, didn't like it. And when I called up my friend, I was like, because I always heard about this game that sounded similar to JoJo's, but it was like, it had this sort of niche audience at the time. So I was like, hey man, I've heard about this game called Persona. Like, could you tell me about it? And this is like, oh yeah, so in Persona, the way Persona works is like, basically, you're these group of teenagers and you're going around and in this other world and you're killing shadows. And like, and I was like, wait, hold on, what are shadows? And they was like, oh, well, they're like manifestations of human desire that you defeat with your personas. And I was like, okay, wait, hold on. What's a persona? And he was like, well, they're actually like, they're the manifestation of the human heart, your desires. And I was like, wait. I thought, weren't shadows supposed to be like human desires? So wait, personas are shadows? And it's like, well, yes, but no. And like, basically, like, shadows are just clones of human desire, and personas are just like one human desire. And I was like, okay, wait. And I was like, wait. So they're all human desires. So wait, are we actually just killing humans?
People?
It just kept going on and on and on and on. And I was like, okay, I have no idea what the fuck this game is about. I want to try it. So, yeah, Persona 1, tried it. It was a failure because I tried emulating it. It just did not go well. Persona 2, I don't remember how far I got, but I got pretty decently into the game until my save data got corrupted. And I was like, I said, fuck it, I'm not doing that again. Persona 3, though, that's when it hit, because I was like, it finally worked. I beat that game, and I was just like, it opened my eyes. I don't know. It was dark. It was gritty. It felt real. And in terms of the subject it was talking about, it did not pull its punches, and it didn't feel like it was, it didn't feel like it was like undermining the actual subject or anything. It actually felt like it was a mature subject that it wanted to tackle very maturely. So I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed Persona 4 and the anime. And then when it came to Persona 5, it was absolutely, for a long time, it was my favorite game. And granted, look, I don't want to knock what anyone says about it and everything, because objectively, I 100% believe that this is still a really good game. But personally for me, it's just like, I've gotten to this point past what many people call the honeymoon phase. I've gotten past that point because I look at this game and it's just like, I point out its flaws, I point out its criticisms, not because I think it's a terrible game. Not in any way. I think it's a wonderful game. It's just, I think if you were to improve this going forward, if you were to think, how do we improve this and going in like 6 or 7? Absolutely, there's different ways to go about it, because I don't think any of the games, even I love 3, for as much as I love 3, as much as I love 4, I admit those games have their flaws. Those stories have their flaws.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I absolutely think I absolutely like the fact that they have flaws, because going forward, you look at later games and you wonder, like, hey, how can you improve on that? Well, let's take a look at what we used to do, and then let's do something more with it going forward. Okay. But yeah.
Yeah, I like even for me, like my honeymoon phase for like Royal kind of like petered off. A lot about what I liked about the game, like once you play the game, like when you play the game for the first time, of course you're going to like notice the better parts of it. But when you start like actually thinking about it, that's when you're like, huh. This is interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like this.
I think. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Like the whole entire. I watched your video on 5 on the relationship thing.
Yeah.
And I never really thought about that, because that's such a nuanced thing that's in a lot of games. And when you said, yeah, it's kind of weird that the protagonist keeps going after all these older women, I'm like, you know, that's actually kind of true.
Yeah.
And I can understand, like, this is Japanese culture kind of stuff. Age of consent is a lot lower. You don't have to worry about that kind of thing. But I'm just like, this is kind of weird. We're kind of forcing ourselves on these women when we really don't need to.
Especially when you consider some of the women's positions, like, your choices between some of the adults are, like, an alcoholic adult next to a fortune teller in the red light district, and your teacher and your doctor. I
still don't I don't understand the teacher thing. I don't get it. I never got it in 3. I never understood it. Yeah.
At the very least, I think 3 in the grand scheme of things handled the whole teacher situation better, because
I mean, it's online.
Yeah, it was online, but it was also like, she didn't try to the thing is, like, with Teruyumi, she didn't try to actually really press it. She was just flustered, she was shocked, she was bewildered, like, so many emotions came across her. And to me, I was just like, I think compared to what 5 was doing, it's a lot better. That said, it's still a student, like, having a relationship with his teacher. So. Yeah. And I think personally for me, when it came to the romance, I think, like, what I think was interesting in the grand scheme of things with romance was just like, yeah, you have all these different, like, characters from different walks of life, and, like, sure, like, I enjoy, like, the different characters, and I enjoy the fact that as games went on, like, romance became optional. And I had to actually look into this, but I did like that with the females, they actually do have chances, the adult females, they do have chances where you can actually, like, reject the confession and you can just be friends. But with that said, again, I feel like with Persona 5, in terms of how it sets up romance, it's one of the worst, because definitely. 3, like, at least with 3, okay, yes, it is mandatory, but you spend all that time with the other girls, you get to actually know them, it actually feels more like, the idea of them being romantic, even though it is forced, the idea of it going down to romance, at least you had that time to build it up because you've been spending so much time with them. 4,
it's more stuck around. I know there's one. I think there's one where it's a nurse, one nurse, right? Yeah. I don't know if you can actually romance her. I can't remember.
I don't.
But I know that.
Yeah. Sorry.
I know a lot of the romances were mostly, like, tied to the school. Like, you were mostly romantic to the students. which that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
You're more your age, right?
Yeah.
I
will
agree.
say about the 4 anime, it does have one of the funniest moments in the ending with like Nanako confessing her love to
Yeah.
and she's like just Dojima, look, if you break her heart, I'll never forgive you. Yeah. But when it came to 5, what I think got under my skin the most was how it set it up, because for the majority of them, it's like at the start, like, okay, let's say, well, I guess since the teacher is a big one, let's talk about Kawakami. So at first he was like, okay, so you both have dirt on one another. She knows that you called you called like a maid service even though you're underage, and you know that your teacher is a maid. So you're covering for one another. So there's that relationship of give and take where it's like, yeah, you know what? You don't tell anyone I'm moonlighting a maid, and you know I will come by your house and clean it up, and then I'll look the other way when you're trying to not really study or anything. I like that, and then there's that whole thing with the parents and you trying to help her and everything. The thing where I draw the line is framing all of that as, okay, I helped you out, I saved you from the scumbag parents, I kept your secrets and everything, so are we dating now?
Exactly, right?
Yeah,
to me it comes out of nowhere.
Like, I've mentioned this in my circles, but it is kind of on, it's kind of reaching on that incel territory where it's just like you do all these things for the girls and you expect their love and affection.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Yeah,
but
pretty much.
I mean, the grand scheme of things, it's like when it came to like romance, it's just like when it came to romance, like one of the ideas I had going back to the video is like there was a game I brought up called Haven, which was basically in the game you actually start out in a relationship with another significant other. So the game is about like just 2 lovebirds stranded on a planet, and they explore it and they take the time to actually like just strengthen the relationship. The whole game is mainly just asking the question is in terms of like, what is the right answer for romance? Is it more so going with what everyone else wants you to go with, or is it going with what you want to go with? Either way, and I love the game through and through, I won't give any spoilers, but either way, the game really frames it as there is no one right answer, and every answer is going to have its consequences or sacrifices. But it's all a matter of what you desire, what you want. And that, I feel, in the grand scheme of things, if they were to go more down that route, like incorporating romance in the grand scheme of things as a separate level of rank up for an arcana.
Exactly.
Yeah, more strengthening, and on top of that, I also kind of think that it might be better, because to add on to the whole thing of what Persona 5 is, once you romance the girls, you don't really have to do anything else.
Exactly. There's nothing else other than the Valentine's thing or the Christmas thing or the what. Yeah.
If you really wanted to, you could romance a doctor at the beginning of the game and then just not bother for her for the months on end. All of a sudden, Christmas, Valentine's Day, White Day comes up. Oh, you're star-crossed lovers. It's just like, I feel like at some point she would say, hey, so I know this is great and all, but we haven't really hung out at all. I don't think it's gonna work out.
Exactly, right? Yeah. That's why I think it's better to romance in your general group, like in your school kind of group. And I feel like they should have gone back to that. Yeah. To basically just be romantic to the people that you're like able to see almost every day. I think that's the reason why Kagero romance was the fact, these are people that I'm going to continue seeing. Yeah. And I know I agree with that. I agree. I think what they could do to improve that is to have like 2 split options. Like if you choose a lot of the friendship options, like there's not going to be a romantic option in the future. It's always going to be friends. Or if you're going to continue picking the romantic options, there's always going to be like romantic options in the future. That kind of thing. Yeah. It does. I feel like giving us the option to either pick friendship or romancing. And I can say like in midway it's still like romantic, but you can like peter off either way kind of thing. I think that could definitely help it out. I think keeping it in your like close friends circle would definitely help out, because that's the people you see, and I can understand why they kind of like petered off, being like, okay, if you're done the social link, then you don't have to worry about this person anymore. Because like if you had to continually focus on that person while you're also trying to focus on these other social links, confidants, whatever. I can understand that getting a little tiring. So you're already dealing with enough shit and you already have a deadline kind of thing. So yeah.
Well, yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's like, I understand that most likely, and being realistically, most likely, it's probably not going to change too much in the long run. Maybe there are some things that they do change later down the line, but I mean, if people really like what they've been doing, it's most likely going to be the same stuff we've been getting. So, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I think the most I can do is just hope, in the grand scheme of things, that some things are different going down the line.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah. And meanwhile, I guess we should more so get into Persona 5 and Royal more deeply. So, like, honestly, I feel like we should get to the major elephants in the room. So, let's talk about some of the characters. For instance, let's talk about Goro Akechi.
Alright.
Do you want to go first, or should I?
I can go first. Okay. Persona 5, hated his guts. Literally just I think just the worst character. And I think it's mostly because they force that confidant on you kind of thing. They like upgrade it every main story event. I'm like, I don't want to hang around this dude. Why is this dude following me? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then the ending just coming out of nowhere. Just blew me for a loop. I had that exact same reaction that Kago did when he finished his Persona 5 Let's Play. That's my reaction. I was just like, you fucking idiot kind of thing. And even when I was starting Royal, I was looking back at things that I didn't really consider, like his interview, his first interview, and the whole entire like gray area thing. He talking about like, oh, you shouldn't change people's hearts. It's a gray area thing. Like, people should have the choice. And I'm like, dude, you literally are forcing it on people. You do the exact same thing. And I was just like, this was foreshadowing, wasn't it? This completely flew over my head. So I was like ready to hate his guts. And then his confidant started. And we haven't gotten to his confidant yet. Kagoto's dreading it. I'm looking forward to it because I'm very excited for him to actually like not only to get to know Akechi as a person, but just to have fun with it. And I'm very much expecting him to like tease the crap out of him. And I was like, yes, please do that. Please tease him, because that's what this boy needs. He needs friends to tease him. And Joker is this perfect friend who's just like, I will tease the fucking crap out of you. I'm not going to give up on you, any kind of thing. And like Akechi is pushing him away. Joker's like, I'm gonna keep coming after you. I don't fucking care. And one of my favorite moments, that kind of like click moment where you're like, oh my god, I love this character, was when they were, I think, they met up randomly and went to like this little cafe, and then Akechi was like, oh crap, my fangirls, and Joker's like, you know what? I got you, fam. And he messes up his hair and puts the glasses on him. He's like, hey, now we're twins. Like, that was my favorite fucking scene. And I was like, oh my god, I love this child. And then it just kind of like spiraled out from then. I was sitting on the edge. And it was just like, I shouldn't like this character, but why am I liking this character? And then it just continually spiraled, and you learn more and more about him, and you learn more about like his past and like how he was treated as a kid. Like in 5, people say that there was hints about his childhood and all that, and like Japanese culture. In Royal, it really sinks into it. Like, this is how he was treated. This is the reason why he is kind of thing. And you're just like, oh shit, I want to help out this person.
Yeah.
I want to make them a better person. Like, actually, you're actual friends with them. And like, I think me and Kagado talked about this on a car ride. We were taking a road trip. And I finally explained to him about Akechi's character without spoiling too much about Royal. And also about what might have happened with Wakaba. And the fact that Wakaba might not have been killed by Akechi at all. That it's possible that Shido might have drugged Wakaba. Because he had this whole entire thing that could collapse palaces, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have no doubt that Shido may have used Akechi to poison Wakaba, but in the end, I think Shido was the one. I think what happened is that Akechi might have put down her shadow or whatever, and Shido was the one who like teetered her over the edge, kind of thing.
Yeah.
We don't know exactly. There is some hints here and there about Akechi saying, "Oh, I feel bad that we had to put her down," instead of actually saying, "I feel bad that I had to kill her," kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of hints here and there. Akechi's still stupid for the fact that what he wanted from Shido, but I can understand why he wanted to go that route, because Akechi isn't a killer. He doesn't want to kill people. He only killed Okumura because he has this mindset of being like the bigger person, and the Phantom Thieves were getting in the way. They were literally getting him in the way. He was going to reveal everything, and he was getting in the way, so he had to put him down, kind of thing. That was his mentality. He was like, this person is a threat, these people are a threat, I have to put him down, kind of thing. I don't think Akechi actually kills people. He only does things that gets people out of the way, so to speak.
Okay, well, yeah, thank you for your input on that. Me personally, I don't think I went into detail about what I thought about Akechi, but I think I've said this in a number of interactions in the past privately, but here, well, first things first, I just wanted to get this out of the way. I'm not gonna act like Joker and Akechi are not literally L and Light Yagami from Death Note. I'm not gonna act like that. Akechi literally looks like fucking Light Yagami.
He does! I can't believe I literally find that out in the server. I was like, wait.
Yeah.
Wait! Oh my god!
Yeah. Jokes aside, though. Okay, jokes aside though, in response to the whole Wakaba Ishiki, I mean, it's an interesting theory, and again, it ties back to what I was talking about with Akechi's character in 5, is that Atlas wants to try and eat its cake and have it too. It's where with Futaba, her mom committed suicide. The adults in her life at the funeral reading, they forged that letter. They endlessly fucking torment her. They traumatized her, so on and so forth. They spell that out. Akechi. They use subtle context. They use like artistic liberties to right around the fact of what actually happened with his mom, his parents, his living situation. And I feel like what ticks me off about that is that, again, Persona is a mature rated game. You can just say what the obvious was. There's nothing really stopping you guys. And so I would either want them to either be consistent with saying the obvious thing out loud, or like trying to be right around it, but not try to do both at once. But aside from that, I mean, when it comes to Wakaba, I don't necessarily know if Akechi was wrong for the problem with Persona 5 is we don't have an accurate timeline of when what took place. We don't have an accurate timeline because from the sounds of it, Akechi found, at the very least, maybe a couple years before the events of 5, Akechi then did find his power. And from the sounds of it, like, Futaba's mom died when she was a lot younger. So I don't know. It's an interesting theory. I don't necessarily know because I don't have the thoughts. But ultimately, my thoughts on Akechi is this. Yeah, I mean, in 5, he is a dumbass, but also he is a. I also have said this. He's a teenager. Teenagers are dumbasses.
Exactly.
Like, literally, It's also in contextual, even without knowing his story in Royal. I mean, he was an orphan. He eventually watched his mom die. He was an orphan. He wanted revenge on his biological father and got this power to kill people. When you're a kid, let alone teenager, that's not something you go, "Oh, I'm only going to use this power for the greater good." No, you're going to be a little shit with it.
Exactly.
You're going to be a little shit with it, but in the grand scheme of things, when it came to his character in Royal, I'll be honest, when I first played it, I didn't give a fuck about it because I was kind of the same mindset. I was like, all right, let's just get through this. I guess, okay, I guess he's rank upable. Okay, whatever. So I'll admit I did skip through a lot of his story, so I would have to go back and watch. But I think ultimately, what made me, in the grand scheme of things, I wouldn't necessarily say like, okay, I do like him, but I would at no point ever say made me forgive him. What made me respect him was the fact that he knew who the fuck he was. The first time I took notice of that was the last Arcana you can rank up with him fighting you before the Hoshido Palace. And what I liked about that was that his answer after all of that is literally, I'm going to be entirely honest with you, I hate you.
I literally hate you so much.
You're the one person I refuse to lose to. And and I was like, oh my god. Like, to anyone who has not played Royal, which is going to be a lot of people considering it's now on multiple ports, but to a lot of people who haven't played Royal, this might seem a little out of the blue, but if you've played Persona 5 and you're playing Royal, that's like, oh god, he is being honest, and he is being upfront with it. Then when it came to the third semester, it made me respect his character even more because he was like, I never asked for redemption. I never asked for forgiveness. I was ready to atone to get vengeance on my biological father. How dare you take that away from me?
I think he was actually ready to die. Like, if I think even if he succeeded in his plan of doing what he wanted with Shido, I think he was ready to die with that. He was ready to go down with the ship, so to speak, with that whole entire thing. And I think that's what happened with the Phantom Thieves. He was like, okay, I understand that I can't get what I want, but I can help you guys to get what I want anyways, because you're going to make Shido look like this horrible person anyways. So I might as well go down with the ship, kind of thing. And I agree, I don't forgive Akechi either. No. And I think that's why I love the third semester so much, is because he's just like, I didn't ask for this. I know what's going on. I know that this isn't what it's supposed to be. And it's Akechi is the first person to realize, something's not right. This is not how it's supposed to be, kind of thing.
Literally, the first person he comes to is the protagonist saying, yeah, you realize this, don't you?
Yeah. While we're talking about that, do you believe that Joker actually made the wish to have Akechi back?
That's an interesting question.
Because, okay, for me, I don't think that's the case. I don't think Joker made a wish, actually. And I think it was rather, I think it was more Akechi's wish. that he wanted to be back. That, yes, he understood that it was weird that he was back and he didn't want, like, redemption or anything, but I think he wanted a second chance with Joker. I think he wanted a second chance to be like, all right, I'm going to kind of, like, redeem myself. I want to actually be in your group. Like, I think he wanted that. After, like, everyone was trying to convince him, hey, we can be friends, we can be a group, you can actually work with us. I think that kind of got through to Ketchy, and I think he wished for it. I think he wished for it more than Joker did. I think Joker did somewhat want Akechi back, but I think Akechi wanted it more, in my opinion.
You know, now I'm thinking about it, honestly, I think, and I guess we are skipping a little ahead, but
Yeah.
Honestly, I think Joker's wish was the make or break decision of the endings. I think that was it, because in the grand scheme of things, like, when Maruki's ideals became reality, everyone got what they wanted. The only person that didn't get what they wanted was Joker.
Yeah.
And I think that's why Maruki was so insistent. Like, he was waiting for Joker to make his wish, because he didn't see anything. So,
exactly.
And also a side note about the ending. So you know about the Prison of Regression, right?
Yes.
Like the Destiny Meadows. What I thought was interesting is how I looked at this, and honestly, both these endings for Maruki's reality and the Prison of Regression, they're one and the same. The only difference
they have parallels. I noticed the parallels.
Is, to me, the perspective. Because in the Prison of Regression, you see all these people locked up and they're just delusional and thinking that this is a paradise. But in Royal, you see that paradise. You see that this is why they don't want to leave. You see that this is the life that they have inside that cage.
Yeah.
Instead of the Phantom Thieves looking in the cages, the player, you are the ones looking into the cages.
Yep, and now all of your party members are in those cages.
Yeah.
And dealing with all that.
Yeah, and what really got me about that realization is that I was the one that put that on them. I was the one that chose that. That to me that's a part of why I like Persona to begin with, is that ultimately, even, you know, it ultimately at the end of the day, it's just like, it's one of those things where it's like your choice actually does matter. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I was talking about it earlier, but I guess so honestly, let's talk about Maruki.
Okay. All right. So beginning, when we first met him, I fangirled about him. I was like, you don't get like male dorky characters anymore. Like, you either get you get like the protagonist, you get the idiot like Ryuji, you get people like Yusuke. And then you get like, you don't really get like dorky people. Like, I love that, and I like actual guidance counselor characters, because I'm just like, we need to like actually have characters like this more and often, because we don't get this very much in media anymore about like guidance counselors or therapists or psychologists kind of things.
Yeah.
So I was super excited. I was like, I love this kind of thing. I love the fact that he's working with the kids. I love the fact that he's trying to get to know them. Like, you're actually getting to know the character kind of thing. And then we get to the third semester. So I saw these little posters of every single palace for Royal in the spoilers. And I saw this poster of the scene where Maruki is holding Kasumi in his arms and being like, I'm going to save her, kind of thing.
Yes.
I thought the twist was going to be the fact that Kasumi couldn't remember anything. She had forgotten about her family, and she basically, Maruki was her father, basically shadowing as her therapist. I thought that's what that meant. I thought that she was the father, because we never saw the father. We never got to glimpse the father. We only heard about like things we also heard about glasses, and I was like, Maruki has glasses. Could he really be the father? And then we figure out, oh no, he's not the father. He is her therapist. He's just fucking up with everything. And when we got to that moment, when Maruki finally revealed himself, I freaked out like Kagado did with Akechi. I was like, Maruki, you motherfucking idiot! You had it! You had it! You were changing people! You don't need the cognition world to change people! You were doing it! You were already doing it! You were helping people move on! You were helping move on with her situation! You were helping Ryuji finally accept adults! You were helping Yusuke, you were helping all these people, and now you're telling me, oh no, I haven't been doing enough. I have to use my persona to change the cognition, and I have to be as bad as Yaldi, the god, and change everything. I was like, no, you were already doing it. And so I was just like, when we got to the ending where we finally beat Maruki. And he was hanging off the bridge, and he was like, just let me die. I was like, no, you motherfucker! You get back up here! You fucking do your job! Yeah, I kind of wish he, like, you know the ending where he turns into, like, a taxi driver, and he, like, picks up the main character, and he's, like, actually doing that. I was like, I kind of wish you had gone back to your whole guidance counselor thing and you learned that that was actually what you were supposed to doing. But I guess you could say that it's the same way with taxi drivers, and he could make people feel comfortable, but transporting them from destination to destination, you could say that's a whole metaphor kind of thing. But yeah, Maruki was a roller coaster. Roller coaster of emotions.
Honestly, I can see that, honestly, and it's interesting. I see it like this, though. All right, not to say that like you or anyone else who thinks the same is wrong. This is just how I see it.
Yeah.
Maruki. Well, I mean, okay, for one reason, I mean, I could just be, like, the smug asshole and say, well, obviously, I mean, they need, like, someone who is, like, someone who is fallible that thinks they have the answer in a JRPG game. They need a god who doesn't actually get it. I could say that, but realistically, Maruki, behind everything else, is still a human. And humans, they fuck up, but they also have their limits. And I think the biggest problem with Royal, in my opinion, is that the third semester is not bad. It is just, it feels so supplementary. We only get so much about Maruki's life and how he handles going forward, just in so little time. Like, the whole thing around him cutting his ties with his fiancée. Then it's cut to him drinking with his friend at a bar, but then him alone at a bar, just drunk out of his mind and crying. It's like, I look at this and I'm like, yeah, I see this and I'm like, yeah, this is a man who wanted to create a life of suffering, but at the end, deep down, he knows he's still suffering himself.
Yeah, he was the martyr. He wanted to be like, even if I'm still suffering, I don't want other people to suffer, kind of thing. And I get that.
Yeah.
I understand that. And I understand that ideal of wanting that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, but you were already doing that. Like you weren't taking away people's suffering. Like, I don't think no one can do that, right? You can't.
Yeah.
You can't. This whole entire ideal he had was great in hindsight. It was great, but in the bigger picture of things, that's just a shield, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, even if he got his way and made this reality real, it wouldn't be real. It wouldn't. There wouldn't be realism to it, because it's just a shield. It's just, he's not making reality real. He's just putting a mask over it, which is the whole game.
Yeah.
Right? taking off your mask, accepting who you are. That's what Persona's all about, is accepting your flaws, right?
Being your true mind.
Exactly, not covering yourself up with a mask and be like, everything's hunky-dory kind of thing. What the whole entire team needed was to be able to work through their problems. And that's why I like Futaba's arc so much, is the fact that she doesn't magically just like get over all her problems. It's step by step by step. And even after that entire week where you're getting to know her and you're trying to help her through her own whole social anxiety thing, she's still dealing with that. She's still dealing with the PTSD and the anxiety, but she's still fighting to be a better person. And that's what I think is what makes me relate to her so much. Is because the fact that I wanted that too. I wanted to open up and be a better person and be more open to people, even though I was scared shitless of people because of experiences in the past. So that's why I like her arc, is that she's accepting who she is, but she's also being a better person.
Yeah. And when it comes to Marky, it's, in the grand scheme of things, it is, I think ultimately it is just a matter of, like, lack of context and lack of awareness for his life and everything. And in the grand scheme of things, I took him bending reality to his own will as sort of a parallel to the Phantom Thieves, being that they were in situations where they wanted adults to help, like with Kamoshida, with Mishima saying, like, look, all the adults know he's abusing the students. It's pointless. They're not going to say anything.
Yeah.
In its own way, I kind of feel like with Marky's story, it's like, yeah, he could have all the studies on cognitive science, he could help all the people he wants through counseling and guidance, but at the end of the day, there are always going to be people up top, regardless of if he's a kid or an adult. There's always going to be people up top who are more than willing to push him down the stairs if it means they can just make a quick buck, if it means they can get what they want. So,
pretty much.
Him going about altering reality and everything, I can kind of take as, look, I don't have an error choice, I need to make a world suffering. Now, I will say, yeah, it could have been done better. The third semester and everything could have been addressed and done better. Conceptually, I'll get into this later with some other stuff, but conceptually speaking, I think Marky's character and everything isn't bad. I do think it could have used some improvements, but that said, in the grand scheme of things, in terms of how I feel about him, even afterwards, I mean, like, yeah, I will agree. There is like a level of idiocy to him, sure, but I never, from the bottom of my heart, I never hated him. He was never a villain to me, and he was never a villain to the characters. He was an antagonistic force that the characters had to go against. I never hated him, especially even like after what he like did in the third semester. I never really got it as in the same vein of like, I guess to keep it in the royal, like in the same vein of like Okumura using his daughter to get what he wants. Like, yeah, he like what he was doing was wrong, but it was like, I guess what I'm trying to get at is in the grand scheme of things, I feel like Marky was a good character. In the grand scheme of things, he should have been taken Ichinosi's place, honestly. He should have taken Ichinosi's place in Strikers.
Yeah, I agree with that. I very much, I feel like they wanted to do the exact same thing with Akechi, with the whole twist thing, where you're like, oh, you're with this person, this new person, and then you have this twist at the end where they're actually the antagonist kind of thing. Yeah, I agree with that. I wish he had taken this. But yeah, I agree with that. I agree that I don't hate Maruki. Like, I actually still love him as a character. And even though I'm just like, you're an idiot, Maruki kind of thing, I still liked the third semester and how they handled it. Because, to be honest, yeah, I like that concept. I like the concept of someone, like, shielding, trying to shield the world kind of thing. And trying to, like, compare parallels to be like, this is the person of a regression, only we're in the real world now, kind of thing.
Yes.
This is the exact same thing, and now your party members are going through the exact same thing. And oh my god, I sobbed when I had to make Futaba realize that Wakaba wasn't there anymore.
Yeah, and this should be a good time to talk about how, so my thought process going through the make or break choice of accepting or rejecting Maruki's reality, it was a bitch and a half for me, because I looked around. Ryuji got his leg was better, and he got to run around the track. On was taking his model career more seriously. Yusuke, like, Madarame wasn't a piece of shit and actually was, like, the father he always wanted in his life, or the father that he used to have in his life. Haru, her father was so much better. Makoto, her sister and her sister were getting along much better with her sister, and her father was back, and Futaba, her mom was back. So I was looking at this and, like, it's a bitch and a half to want to actually reject this, because it's just
you want this world, you want it, this is the world that you want, but you know that you can't have, right?
In its own way, yeah, but at the same time, for me, it's a similar, like you were talking about with Yadabaoth, it is a similar case, but the difference between Yadabaoth's deal and Maruki's deal, Yadabaoth, there was nothing in it for you. He used you the entire game. He decided to just take away your party members when you realized you guys just got in the way. You guys just knew too much. You were just getting too full of yourselves. So you needed to get out of the way. And he used him, and he hijacked the Velvet Room. He took over Igor and bisect Lavenza.
Yeah.
God. I don't really know any other words I could say divided, but bisect sounds funnier.
No, it makes sense.
Yes.
It definitely makes sense.
Maruki
makes it even more creepier.
Yeah. Maruki, though, he, like, listened to what everyone had to say. He paid attention. He gave them the world they wanted. He relieved Joker of being a phantom thief and his criminal record. Like, this world that Maruki created is perfect. But that is the thing. It's perfect. It is the world that these characters wanted. But this is the world that they were fighting for. Crawling from the bitter depths of their hell to actually achieve. And Maruki handed to them on a silver fucking platter. And to me, I look at them like, that's why I don't want to accept it. You just gave it to us. We've been working for this, and you just let that all go to waste.
Yeah. Exactly. Right? You just made it happen. Like what was the whole entire point of everything, right?
Yeah.
Also, quick point, the only reason why Joker even exists in this world is because Maruki allowed it to happen. Because every single want of the party member makes it so that Joker isn't in it. Like, if Wakaba is back, then Futaba has no need to meet the group, and so Joker can't be in her life anymore. Same with An, and Ryuji, and all these characters. If they got what they wanted through this world, Joker wouldn't be in it. They wouldn't have a relationship with Joker. The only reason why The only reason why Joker is even in this world is because Maruki wanted it to be the case. He wanted him still to have his friends. But it's a paradox. It doesn't make any sense, right? So if Joker wanted to be in this world, these players wouldn't be able to get what they wanted, right?
Yeah.
So there's also that.
Yeah. And before we go on to the next one, I just want to say shout-outs to the late, great Billy Kometz for voicing Tokuto Maruki. Absolutely, he did such a fantastic job between making him sound like a sweet, dorky young man to a man who was absolutely going through hell and suffering. He... Just rest in peace, man.
Yeah.
And, I think we can move on to the other character in particular. Kasumi or Sumire Yoshizawa. Can I go first on this?
Yeah, you go first on this.
Yeah. So, I had a few theories about this when I was first playing it. I initially thought Yoshizawa, the one that you meet and the one that you interact with, was initially the girl who had died in the car accident. That's what I thought, because throughout the game, aside from a few key points, throughout the game, the only times you really see Kasumi are when Joker is around. And the only time, like, other people seem to be aware of it is when they're students of Shujin, or they're faculty of Shujin. My idea initially was that she had died, and she was a ghost that was haunting Shujin Academy until she was able to fulfill the dream that she couldn't achieve. And somewhere down the line, she believed that she had a sister that died and was doing it for her.
Yeah.
Now, that said, I don't hate her story. I don't even dislike it. But the problem I have is that she is non-essential in this story until the third semester, until that big laboratory reveal during Haru's during the Kuruma Palace run, because she only has a couple of moments in the game in the grand scheme of things, and in terms of her arcana, I'm really starting to wonder why the moments that were part of the story just weren't part of the actual arcana instead, because they actually give more information about her character and more information about what she thinks, as opposed to her actual arcana that is basically just, I have a problem, main character says something, thanks senpai, you always know what to say to cheer me up.
Yeah.
And when it came to her, it's just like, her story in the grand scheme of things, and like, in the grand scheme of things, I'll be 100% honest, what fueled my rage in that video was a good portion, was the amount of interactions I had with people absolutely shitting on Maruki just because he was using Yoshizawa. And two things to that in the grand scheme of things I want to say. One, we don't have the context in terms of how long they've like actually known each other in terms of patient and therapist, so we don't know what her mindset was like throughout the grief. And two, well, I mean, I don't want to make this like get too like incredibly like second turn, but I'm gonna have to say this because in the grand scheme of things, I don't like the fact that Yoshizawa, in terms of the story, is framed as a damsel in distress, because in the grand scheme of things, she's not.
Yeah,
She is ultimately suffering and going through the death of someone that she ultimately loves. And on top of that, she's a teenager, she's put on a pedestal, and she's dealing with the fact that she killed her own sister. That is a recipe for intense depression followed by suicide.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. If they really wanted to honestly give us an insight of what her mindset was like, I already had like some ideas. Like, you could have this one scene while they're traversing through like Maruki's palace. You have this one scene where her father comes home, hears rushing water in the bathroom, starts to get worried. It's like, Sumire, are you okay in there? Knocks on the door, and she starts to see water flowing out the bathroom, opens it, and sees her lumped over the bathroom crying. No marks on her or anything, but an open razor. And just looking at that, I'm like, oh my god,
She was close to it.
She was so close to it, but she just couldn't bring herself to do it.
Yeah.
Something like that, I really could feel like this could give you an understanding of what her mindset was sort of like. So that when it came to her deciding, I want to be my sister Kasumi, the idea that this whole thing of her being her sister is the stage of denial for her would hit so much better for me.
Yeah.
But that's what I want to say. What do you want to say?
Okay. So, I would say that I'm kind of like on the fence when it comes to Kasumi.
Mhm.
I would say that people are correct that she's not like Mary Sue worthy, like Marie was in Golden. She was definitely a step away from that, but I feel to like counteract that, they kind of like took away. I would say that Kasumi doesn't really have a personality. Like she doesn't really have a personality of her own, and I think like now that I think about it, I guess that's the main reason, because technically she was acting like her sister, and this was like her impression of what her sister would be, and her sister was very like wanting to be better at her gymnastics. She was a heavy eater, I'm assuming. She was kind to people, kind of thing. That's what she saw her sister as, and I think that's why she doesn't have more of a personality outside of that. But even when she becomes Sumire, it feels like she doesn't really have a personality outside of that. There's nothing difference between there's no difference between her, Kasumi, and Sumire that make them like unique from each other, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing about Sumire that makes her a different person. Like the only thing that we get is that she was shy, or that she was critical of herself, kind of thing. We don't really get anything more than that. She's basically same as Kasumi, just now she has a different name, in my opinion. But I never blamed I never had that moment of being like, I hate Maruki because of what he did to Kasumi. I feel like Maruki could have helped Kasumi without needing his powers, because I feel like we could have had moments where Kasumi could have been like extremely suicidal and all that, and seeing like the depths that she was willing to go, right? Because of this guilt, and I totally get that. In the past, I've also been suicidal, because of the shit I've been through. But I feel like Maruki didn't need to go that far, and I think it's because of that ideal of being like he had this ideal of wanting to make a perfect world, and that started with Kasumi and Sumire and helping understand that she's Kasumi. But at the same time, I feel like there are literally people out there who go to school, and there's literally hotlines out there that help these kind of people with this kind of thing, right? And I feel like I wanted Maruki to be that person who was able to help her in that way, and understanding like the want to be able to do more kind of thing, and the frustration that Maruki would have with wanting to help his patient but not being able to, and feeling that exact same thing with his fiance, where she was also dealing with PTSD, and this whole entire situation, and he could only help her by completely erasing her memories, and feeling like he needed to do the exact same thing with Sumire. But yeah, other than she's just a part of the story, I don't really see anything in Kasumi Kasumi in the beginning, and Sumire in the third act. I would say I'm more frustrated with the fact that everyone's like, oh, she's the best character, or oh, she's OTP, like she should be with the main character, kind of thing. I was like, okay, slow down. She's great. She's not a Mary Sue. That's great. You're in the stepping in the right direction, Atlas. But I wouldn't say she's top tier. And I think the main reason why everyone likes her is because she's pretty. She's pretty. Basically, I've heard people saying, oh, I have a bias to her because she has red hair, and I'm like, yeah, that's it, isn't it? It's really because she's pretty. Because I would say that if she really wasn't all that pretty, I bet you anything people wouldn't put too much thought into her. But since people have that bias towards her, and the fact that Atlas puts so much emphasis into her with Royal, like the fact that you go out with her on the day when the gets changed by Maruki, like people are saying, oh, this is so TP kind of thing. Well, where is she in Strikers? Where is she in any other game? Like, exactly. If she's OTP, then she should be in these other games, but she's not. I still say that OTP is Joker and Akechi, but that's just my shit post shipping, right? Because like I feel like they have a better relationship than Kasumi and Akechi do, but basically just but yeah. I agree with that. I feel like they could have gone a lot more with Kasumi's character and Maruki's character too, in showing their kind of downfall, right? They give hints about their downfall, but they don't actually show it. And I feel like we need to see this stuff. We need to actually see the downfall of these people. We need to see the nitty gritty of all this. Like, if you're going to make a mature game, you should just go all out. You shouldn't just like hold back kind of thing. You should go all out and just show it. Show it to us. I know you can easily be subtle and be like, oh, this kind of thing. Oh, they could have been feeling this way. No, like actually show it. Have scenes. Like, if you don't want to actually show like Kasumi coming close to committing suicide, you can have scenes with it. You can imply it. Like if you didn't want to show Maruki's downfall between him in that scene where he's talking to his colleague, and to that point where he's almost drinking himself to death kind of thing, right? I feel like we need more of that. We need more in-depth kind of thing, right?
Yeah. And I honestly, like, I honestly kind of think, like, if they were to go, it's like, well, we didn't want to show, like, the whole thing of how Kasumi was in her past. It's just, if that was Alice's answer, I feel like it's a little hypocritical, considering, aside for the obvious, like, oh, I don't know, Shiho.
Yeah! Jumping off a building!
Yeah, Shiho.
Guys!
And I had to look into this because I never really bothered to look into the bad endings, but I see some videos every now and then. But apparently there is a bad ending for the Kaneshiro, the mafia boss, where if you don't complete it in time, they're subtle about it, but dear God, they don't hold anything back, where they basically say Makoto was kidnapped, drugged, and they did God knows what to her. They dumped her ass somewhere, and she was caught by the police. The only thing that apparently she was saying was the protagonist's name.
Yeah.
Which is, it's fucked up, but at the same time, the fact that the creators are more than willing to go to those lengths, it's just like, what is wrong with going to the same amount of lengths, or even further, for a character like Kasumi Yoshizawa? I get she's the new poster child in terms of Royal. I get she's a popular character, and she's the one that Atlas wanted to push in this re-release, but still.
Yeah, we need the nitty-gritty, right? Because other than, like, giving her a personality that is her own, I feel like an in-depth showing about her struggling with this would have definitely helped. Even if it was just through the memories of Maruki, like having like scenes where they're discussing things, and like her talking about the fact that she almost committed suicide or she was close to it, kind of thing. I feel like instead of Kasumi, like Sumuri being like a little bit depressed, like talking like monotone and all that, I feel if she had come to him and it was like, I was really close to committing suicide, she was in tears, she was like sobbing kind of thing.
Yes.
I feel like if that was the critical point, being where Maruki's like, I need to do something, I have to step in, I have to do like actual thing, I think I would have been more okay with the fact that Maruki had to step in, because that would have been parallel to his fiance, who was screaming her head off about this whole entire thing. That I can understand why he changed her cognition. But to just see Kasumi, like just see her monotonely talk about how she killed her sister. I feel like that isn't enough. That isn't enough to push somebody to be like, I need to change this person's cognition. Like, what am I gonna do? Kind of thing. I feel like there should have been a bigger scene between the two of them that showed that she was dealing with a lot more than just being depressed. That her sister was gone, or that she caused this to her sister. I feel like there should have been more.
Yeah, and like, I mean, like, there's a few more like different like criticisms like I make about it. Like, for example, her persona being Cinderella. Like, face value, I get, but let's be real. It's just like, Cinderella's story was not in any regards in the same vein as Kasumi's. Like, I know there's that whole line where it's like, I won't go back to being disgusting Sukota garbage, but that feels it feels very face value compared to something like Arsène Lupin for the main character, or hell, even Loki for Akechi. It just feels like, in the grand scheme of what it feels like is a similar vein of what they did with like The Answer in Persona 3, where it's like, it's not that it's bad, but it feels like you kind of wanted to rush this out of the door as soon as possible.
Yeah. I feel like it definitely could have. You could have taken more time with it. There could have been so much more. It felt like they were like, okay, we're doing something with Persona 5. We need to make a third semester. There has to be this big reveal kind of thing. What are we gonna do? It feels like almost like they had to kind of thing.
Yeah.
And in the end, since they were at the end, they didn't get a lot of time to actually flesh it out kind of thing. So I think they could have handled the third semester better. I think I'm kind of like half and half with the third semester. I really like the third semester. I like how they handled it. I like the themes around it. I like how they handled the Akechi kind of thing. But on the other hand, like the whole Sumuri thing, like how they handled like between Maruki and Sumuri, I feel like they could have done a lot better with that as well.
This whole story would be more beneficial if it was a DLC expansion.
Exactly.
Yeah, because it feels 100% like they added new stuff, and they added a whole new story at the end. But again, and it's just like, it feels better as a DLC. Also, I had been reading like the manga in 5 like beforehand around this, and I noticed like around midway around the Makoto becoming part of the team, then they started to introduce like Royal's story in the manga, and I'm looking at this, I'm like, you know, I like how it introduces like just Royal's characters, but as the manga went on, I'm looking at this and I'm like, the more I look at this, I feel even more so that Royal's story feels more like DLC, because it just feels shoehorned in when it comes to the story. Because in the manga, the whole thing on social links and everything, that's not there. So they have to go with only what happens in the story. And there's only a few key moments of what happens in the story in the grand scheme of things. Yeah. And I don't know, like when I realized that, it kind of aggravated me a little. And then I read the Persona 1 manga, and I don't know, do you care about reading it, or?
I might give it a look. I'm not sure when Kageto's ever going to get into, like, playing Persona 1 or playing Persona 2. We'll see, 'cause he's very excited about getting back into 3, with the Reloaded, coming up. Yeah. So I might peek into it, but
I will say, if you're like, and this is not even like a dig or anything, like if you or anyone else is just not interested in dungeon crawlers, just how Persona used to be, the manga, read it. I guarantee you, if this made me realize why Kasumi's story is like this, it's because they decided, I don't know if this is true or not, but pretty much the story in the Persona 1 manga, for one of the characters in particular, is downright almost exactly the same as what they were trying to do in Royal. The difference is, it is done so much better with time and build up and just so much more payoff. So if anyone is interested in, like, you know, if you're interested in knowing about, like, you know, the story on Persona 1, and as well as, like, just a better, in my opinion, a better version of what Kasumi's story is, absolutely the Persona 1 manga, I think, is so much better on that end.
Mm-hmm. You said Royal would have benefited from a DLC.
Mm-hmm.
Would it have been just better, like, it be a separate game like Strikers and Tactica was?
In its own way, probably. The thing about it is like, I could imagine it being sort of similar to, in my opinion, I could imagine it being similar to The Answer, where it's a story that's off to the side that you can choose to go to in the main menu. The difference being is, though, you need to either have save data from Persona 5 in total, or you need to go through Persona 5 in total, and then like pretty much just play through it until you unlock it. Now, in the grand scheme of things, it's just like, I do think that you would have to, like, in terms of Royal being a side story, you probably would have to have like you'd have to back yourself up with like news, like story and new understandings and whatnot and everything. You'd have to handle it a little more differently in the grand scheme of things, but I do think that it could work as just like a story to the side. Like Royal as its own, like the third semester as its own game, like I get, but I think in comparison to like Tactica or Strikers, it feels shorter. And I don't know, like my biggest concern, and this is in the grand scheme of things why I've been going off about why Persona 3 Reload is going to be my make or break game. I don't want to pay full price on launch day for a game that doesn't feel like it's worth the money. Because in the grand scheme of things with, like, I've noticed this in the grand scheme of things, the reason why I didn't say anything about like FES, aside from the fact that I came in late, is that Persona 3 FES came out on the PS2 alongside Persona 3. I mean, that's not the first time it's happened. Like, Kingdom Hearts had a similar situation, where they re-released a Kingdom Hearts game with patches to bugs and whatnot, some new content, some new balances. I get that. Persona 4 comes on the PS2. Persona 4 Golden releases on the PS Vita. That's understandable, because, hey, you're going to need people to buy your new handheld, so I get having a game only on that device. Persona 5, though, released on the PS3 and PS4. And then Royal released on the PS4. To me, that's like, didn't I just buy this game for the
Didn't I just play this game?
Yeah, didn't I just buy it for the same console? And, like, in regards to what Kagero said in the podcast earlier, where he was talking about how it felt like the story was sort of like dragging its feet and just wondering where the new stuff was. After that, I actually went back and played Royal, and I was in the game at that, and where I was at the Kamoshida exploring that palace. I just went through it, I played through it, and after I got finished with it, I was like, wait, I have to do exactly what I was doing in Persona 5 Vanilla. So why don't I just go play that instead of Royal?
Yeah, and I feel like the only reason why you would play Royal would be to get to know the new character.
Yeah, but I mean, like, even then, it's just like, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just like, it doesn't matter whether or not you're a diehard lover of Persona 5 Royal, or you absolutely just hate it, or you're indifferent, or you like it or criticize it, so on and so forth. It doesn't matter. To me, if a game, regardless of how much it wants to add or change, so on and so forth, if it is not an enjoyable experience, or just does not keep my attention for a considerable amount of time, then at the end of the day, I can only say that it just kind of bores me and I want to go play something else. That's why in later years, or later times, as time went on after I beat the game, I found myself going to the Thieves' Den and just playing Tycoon. because it helped keep me more stimulated. It was much more fun, and it wasn't as predictable as when I was playing Persona 5, and it was a better time I enjoyed myself with, as opposed to just going all the way over to the story.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It very much felt the same, and I think the main reason why I was okay with it because I had such a gap between Persona 5 and Royal, whereas Kagero didn't have that gap since he was playing it for his Let's Play. He couldn't play it by himself, kind of thing. He had to play it he had to play it alongside of everyone else. And the moment he got into Royal, he's just like, I've played this game already. Why am I playing it again? Kind of thing. Yeah. He knows that there's new stuff, and there is new stuff. And like once we get to that part, I feel like things will start to pick up. Once we get to kind of Shiro's palace, I feel like that's when it's gonna start picking up, because there's gonna be more characters to interact with, and it's not just like social links and all that. It's more about it's more about like enjoying the new stuff. Yes. And this, that, or the other. And I think that's why Persona 5 Royal was enjoyable to me. Okay. But yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Sorry, I'm listening to music and I'm getting distracted because it just changed.
It's okay. I'm doing the same. It's just like, okay, this is fine. Go ahead.
But yeah, I feel like I understand why Persona 5 Royal is so, like, it feels so much the same as Persona 4, and I feel like they should have, like, kind of like spread out the time when the two were released, instead of releasing. I can't remember how close it was to the first game.
Persona 5 Vanilla came out like initially 2016, 2017 in the States and the West. Like, it was, I think, 2019 in Japan, 2020 in the West.
So like 3 years apart. Yeah
3 years.
So yeah, not a whole lot of time, but I think they did that with Golden 2, I think.
Maybe.
I'm not exactly sure, but okay, here's what I think. I think it's because with Persona 4 they released Arena, right? They had like Arena in between Golden, right?
Yeah.
They didn't just release Persona 4 and then Golden right afterwards. They had like stuff in between. I feel like, if anything, they should have released Strikers in between Persona 5 and Royal. I feel like that would have been a better idea than releasing 5 Royal and then Strikers.
Technically speaking, I think technically speaking, okay, maybe, no, not in the States, or not in the West, but yeah, Strikers did come before Royal. It wasn't a lot of time, but I do remember, like, there were, like, surveys people got when they pre-ordered Royal, where it's like, hey, how would you feel about Strikers coming to, like, the West and everything? And eventually we got that. And I think that's why, particularly, like, Strikers is more canonical to the original as opposed to having ties to Royal.
Which, by the way, talking about, like, canonical things, I like Royal, but I would not want Royal to be canon. The only thing that I would want Royal to be canon-wise is Akechi. But I feel like even with Persona 5, we don't know if Akechi actually died. All we know is that his, Futaba couldn't track him anymore. And I feel like there's a hint in Persona 5 where Futaba can tell where a person is in the palace. She cannot tell where Akechi is. She had no idea Akechi was in the palace. She didn't know that he was in the Shido Palace with them. So I feel like when he was in that, oh, I'm going to die moment kind of thing, he disappeared. And I think that's what he wanted, was the fact that he just wanted to be wiped off the map, and just start a new life kind of thing. And I think in Royal, it was more, we wanted to get to know Akechi and actually have him join the team kind of thing. And that was his wish, was to join the team, which I think is cool. But I think the only thing that I would want canon is for Akechi to be back. But everything else in Royal, it doesn't really need to be canon. We don't need Kasumi and other things. I like Kasumi in Royal. She should just stay in Royal. And I'm probably going to get a ton of shit for that. Like people saying, oh, she should be canon, kind of thing.
I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I just take that stuff with the side. Like, literally, there was someone who made a comment on the internet that just all they said was drip, and a fan base got pissed off at them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, like...
Yeah.
But in regards to, like, Royal, yeah, I'm kind of biased on that, where it's like, yeah, I don't really care too much about Kasumi, but that said, in the grand scheme of things, like... I will admit, when I was really enjoying Royal, when I first played it, I enjoyed the hell out of it, and then when I played Strikers, the only reason why I was sad that it wasn't canon was not because of Kasumi, it was rather what the ending of Royal meant to Persona 5. Because I've heard a lot of people kind of like, I understand like the disappointment, and I understand being sad about it, where it's like the Phantom Thieves and everyone, they go off to do their own things. I get it. But
yeah. Oh, yeah, the ending, the perfect ending of Persona 5. Yeah, you go first. You go first.
Yeah, like when it came to Royal, personally for me, I just love, even though grand scheme of things, like when you compare it to what Persona 5 was doing, yeah, it feels a little cheapened considering the fact that it took them, I don't know, maybe a month or so, like less than a month or so for the protagonist to be released. Whereas within Vanilla, it took them multiple months for them to get his ass out of there. But that said, I mean, the ending to Royal, Ryuichi calls everyone down and it's like, hey, I think I want to start running again. I want to get my leg looked at. I want to go through rehab. Makoto and Haru, we want to kind of start living on our own. We want to go to college. Futaba, I want to go back to school. I want to take my modeling career seriously. Yusuke, I don't really have anything, but I'm just going to keep working on my artwork and everything.
Yeah.
I saw this as like these characters actually getting their second win, because when I look back at the ending to Persona 5 Vanilla now, I see them as, yeah, they're free, they can do whatever they want, but at the same time, what they had been wishing for, what they had been wanting initially, that's gone. They have each other, but at the same time, it's just like, they've kind of lost what they've really wanted deep down. So them, in the end, going off to actually achieve what they actually do want, achieve what they do love, and starting over, I'm like, yeah, I mean, okay, yeah, they're gonna be apart, but I mean, hey, this is what reunions are for. They have like messaging. They have like, they can still keep in touch.
Y'all have phones.
Y'all have phones. You use them.
You have social media. You can keep in contact. It's fine.
Yeah, and it's just like, when it came to Royal, it's just like, I really love that message of, even though they were screwed over by the people in their life and everything, they started over and they were able to truly like work their way up to actually getting what they wanted. So when it came to Strikers, like realizing that Royal wasn't canon, it just felt like, oh, I kind of like really wish that we kept that. I really wish that they would have gone on to do their own things, but I guess it kind of worked out because they also kind of did. I don't know.
It just wasn't shown in Vanilla. Like
Yeah.
they still went and did their own things. I think Makoto and Haru still went to go live off on their own.
Yeah.
And I know that Futaba definitely went back to school. It was also mentioned in Vanilla. But like to have like Ryuji want to run again and An want to focus on her modeling career kind of thing. Yeah, definitely. I would say that this is what I was talking about with Maruki. I was just like, these people were achieving what they wanted on their own means.
Yes.
They didn't need Maruki to give them those things. They can achieve it on their own, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that in the end, they realized that. They realized that that's what they wanted, kind of thing, was to finally move on and accept that, yes, the stuff happened. They experienced great, like, grief, like, with Haru losing her father and Futaba losing her mother and, like, all this stuff. But they're still moving on and they're still, like, being their own people, kind of thing. So, yeah. Totally agree with that.
Yeah. And, it's, I pretty much agree. And, in the grand scheme of things, it's, like, I mean, I ultimately would say, like, in the grand scheme of things, my biggest problem with Persona 5 is not that it's bad, it just feels like it could absolutely be improved.
Could have been so much more.
Yeah.
I think how they could have done that was to just stop with the, like, stop, like, being scared. I feel like that sometimes companies are scared of approaching a topic. Like, they're scared of approaching something because they know that it will piss somebody off. Like, and I think that we need to get over this mentality that we need to stop being scared of pissing people off, because you're gonna do that anyways, right? Like, I don't know if you wanted to talk about this, but this whole entire thing about the whole gay situation in the red light district, about, like, Ryuji being taken away by these gay guys, and that Atlas is making this entire joke about this whole entire thing.
Yeah.
And it pissing a lot of people off and saying, like, oh, Fi's the worst. Like, they're trying to make gay people look really bad. And I'm like, no, it's not the fact that they were gay. It was more the fact that, I mean, they're in the red light district, right?
Yeah.
So they're kind of asking for it. Ryuji was kind of asking for it. Kind of shitty move for Joker just to abandon his friend. Like, anything could have happened to Ryuji.
Yeah.
Thank God nothing else did. But yeah, I feel like we need to stop being scared of offending people. I would say keeping some things into consideration, like sexism or rape or this, that, or the other. Probably, like, doing it with some caution and all that, but to also, like, and not to make fun of it, but also to approach topics that are scary, like suicide, or approaching topics like, if you're going to have a therapist, have him deal with therapy stuff, right? So,
yeah, I do agree. In terms of, like, devil's advocate, I mean, like, I understand. Look, you're a company. You want to make money. You want to grow. I get it. So it's just like you want to be able to please everybody, but, you know, you're not gonna please everybody. It's impossible.
Exactly.
But,
exactly.
I mean, it's just like, honestly, in the grand scheme of things, I understand if, like, you know, sometimes maybe some jokes are just, like, maybe they don't age well with time. Like, there is an old show from, I think, like, early 2010s called Baka and Test, where they have a lot of misgendering jokes around a particular character that was a guy, but looked and sounded like a girl. And they constantly made these shots at, like, how this character was a girl and everything. And, you know, in current climate, yeah, that could piss off a lot of people in the trans community, and probably does. And so, like, I mean, like, I'm not going to speak on behalf of the trans community because I am not part of them and everything. So I just give it to them in the grand scheme of things. But I will say, in the grand scheme of things, it's just like, I mean, at the end of the day, to quote Dave Chappelle, you clicked on my face. At the end of the day, you paid for the game. you pay for the game, you put money into it. I mean, if you didn't like the game, if you didn't want to enjoy it, no one's saying you can't just walk away and find something that is better suited to your taste and your palate and your sensitivities.
Exactly.
Ultimately. Like,
Exactly.
I mean, like, at the end of I mean, like, hell, fucking, one of my favorite games of all time is ultimately, like, a game like Amori. And that game is dark as hell. It's absolutely...
I actually want to get into Amori. I've been very interested into it. It's just been so busy with everything else.
It is a really good psychological horror, and it's I'll say it's like a good psychological horror, and it's a JRPG not in the traditional sense. It's and ultimately, like, if you're fine with dealing with subjects, like if you're fine with like what was dealing with like in Persona 5, just on a more focused mindset and more focused idea here, you'll probably be fine dealing with Amori.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And in regards to Persona 5, we've talked about a lot of it, and I think we should ultimately talk about some of the more supplementary content, like in particular Jose and the Stamps.
Okay. Jose, perfect bean boy, perfect
Yes.
egg boy.
Yes.
We all praise. Okay, I want to actually. Sorry, I know that you're asking me the questions. I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
Because this is a theory I have. Who do you think is Jose's master? Do you think it's Igor, or do you think it's somebody else?
Well, that's an interesting question. And the grand scheme of things, like, I mean, I have my theories more so that I guess I don't necessarily know how it's going to go down the line with Persona 6 and everything, but I have my theories more so that because of the passing of Isamu Tanaka, I thought Jose was going to be the new Igor in its own way. But
I wish. I wish.
like, the way I saw it, ultimately, there is a very likely possibility that it is Igor, but the way I'm thinking it was probably Lavenza in its own way. Because, yeah, Lavenza is just the Philemon butterfly, but at the same time, like, she was, to me, like, it makes the most sense. It makes the most sense to me because it's like Igor has been out of commission, but Lavenza, at the very least, had a ethereal body that she could travel through. So it made sense to me where it's just like she would give Jose the mission, study humans, learn about them. And the idea that more so, hey, you might be up next to take my place, or hey, you might be up next to take my master's place.
Yeah.
I like that idea, and in the grand scheme of things, it's just like I do kind of like that idea that it's just like, you know, Igor created Jose, but also like Lavenza being the older sister, like actually gave him that assignment.
Yeah. I could also see it. I haven't looked into this, but I remember that Igor was a doll at one point, or he is a doll, and that he served under another master. And I thought that was kind of like that's kind of like the same thing that was happening with Jose, was the fact that they served under the same master. This master created Jose, and that he was to take over Igor's place, kind of thing. That's the reason why he's like an egg. He looks like an egg. He was born, and he's learning more about humans, and he has gray hair. It makes sense, right? That it looks like he was supposed to be the replacement for Igor, because especially with the whole entire thing about Japanese voice actor passing away, they wanting to not put him in so many games anymore, which is sad. I really liked Igor's English voice actor. I got all giddy at the end when I found out that Igor an evil replacement and they were getting the real Igor. That made me really happy. But if we had a moment in Persona 6 where Jose was like took over Igor, I think I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
Right? I can understand for Persona 5 still having Lavenza be the one that is replacing Igor, but like for the newer games, like having Jose kind of be that replacement, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, he's perfect Beam Boy, perfect overpowered Beam Boy, like, right? Like it's crazy what he can do. And you were talking about the stamps, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm so glad that I got all the stamps for Kagado and that they carried over, like all the stamps carried over, and he was just able to get the metaverse perfect condition because I had all the all the stamps, so he could just make the metaverse perfect and be able to grind to his heart's content. But my god, was it a bitch and a half?
Yeah.
I'll say this, Atlas, never fucking do it again. Never do it again. Never have collectibles in random places. Don't do that. Don't do that. You either allow us to collect it all in one go, or not at all.
I will say this. Now, I don't know how this would have played out, but if I didn't finish it, but I finished it, and I don't know, maybe, like, I don't know, because, like, I got ADHD, so it's just, like, I mean, having something else to do in Mementos aside from driving around, whatnot, and everything, it takes away from the boredom, but that said, yeah, I understand, oh god, it is, like, a bitch and a half, absolutely.
It definitely made the metaverse, like, Mementos a lot fun to go through. I think it made that grind easier, in my opinion.
Yeah. I will have to ask this. What would you ultimately prefer if you couldn't have it in choice? How it was in terms of Mementos where you finishing it and all of your stamps carrying over, or them going, oh, you finished it, or oh, you didn't finish it. Well, I guess you gotta start from scratch.
Yeah, I would like, fuck this game!
Yeah,
fuck this game!
That's the one thing I will say I'm so glad is that, I mean, the Mementos, you don't really have a time limit, so you can take as much time as you want with it, and it carries over, and oh my god, when I re-met up with Jose after collecting all of them, my heart kind of like, oh my god, because have you seen the conversation you have with it?
I can't remember Royal all that much.
It's okay. So I remember this because it was just so, like, just wholesome, and it just hit me right in the heart, where it was just like, I met Jose, it was just, oh wow, you collect all the stamps, congratulations. Hey, you're not gonna stop seeing me anymore, are you?
Oh,
I was like, oh god! I just want to hug him!
Baby, no, it's okay, I'll come back, I'll see you. I still have the flowers, I'll give you flowers. Yeah.
He was such a sweet cinnamon roll. I love him so much, and it was just...
Yeah.
And I just... Like, it was just... On top of that, he also has one of my favorite introductions, because I found out about him before the Metaverse, because I was like, oh, what's this? Thieves' Den? Oh. Go into it, and it's like, it's just... In Thieves' Den, it's just this collection area. But he enters the game in the best way possible.
He crashes through the wall.
door. It's like, huh. Cool. Yeah. Speaking of, like, what are your thoughts on the Thieves' Den?
I haven't really explored it all that much, because I was mostly playing through the game just for Kagado's sake, so I was like, I wasn't doing anything more than just getting through the story, kind of stuff. And you said that there was spoilers in the Thieves' Den.
Yeah,
so
that was
the
thing I didn't like in retrospect. The thing, like, in terms of like you guys playing it, where it's I don't think that you guys might be safe, but it's just like the Thieves' Den carries over what you collected and what you like placed and everything in there. But when joined a new game plus, and I went to the Thieves Den and it said, "Hey, Sumeria's entered the room." I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah, no.
how do you explain that shit?"
Nope.
Yeah. So
I think we might poke around it around the end. I'll be like, hey, do you want to look into the Thieves
Yeah.
Den thing? Are you fucking done with Royal and not want to ever touch this game ever again? Yeah. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
Basically what we're gonna do is instead of just having him replay everything, just have him do like he did in Persona 4 Golden and just skip to the parts which are new. Which there is new stuff, so we can still make a series out of it, but just so he doesn't have to go through the monotony of just going through everything again.
And I will say, as an audience member, that probably is for the best, considering it is, even though there's new content, it is boring to just go, I watched this. I just watched this.
And even when I'm there, it just it makes it better, but it's just at the same time.
There's only so much both of you can do.
Exactly. So just better to go that direction.
Yeah. So yeah. Ultimately, we've got a couple things here before. Is there like anything you wanna just say, like criticisms or praises for Persona 5 or Royal? Just anything left?
I don't know. I think the game could have been longer. I think Royal could. I think they could have expanded it a little bit more. They could have. I know that this is a thing in Persona about the time limit, but I kind of wish they didn't have the time limit kind of thing. I can understand why they have it, because they don't want the game to go on forever. Yeah. But, you know, I kind of wish that we just had more time, right, to play around with it. I feel like when you're on a time crunch, you're thinking, oh, I should do this, I need to do this. But if you're going to have a game that's telling you to take your time, and yet you're still on a time limit, that kind of, that's to me hypocritical.
Yeah.
So I wish there was more you could do with it, because like you said, once you're done with once you're done with the confidant, there's no reason to continue with that confidant. There's no reason for you to continue talking to this person. I wish they gave you more opportunities to continue with it. I know that Reloaded is bringing that whole entire failure for social links. You can't break social links anymore, but you can like drop down if you don't pay enough attention to if you don't pay enough attention to certain social links. I think that they should have done that in 5 and had you continue, because there was points in the game when I was done with the confidants, because I had gotten through them so fast because I had gotten everything up so fast. Yeah. And I was like sitting around not knowing what to do, because I'm just like, I have nothing to do. I don't know what to do today. Right?
Yeah.
So I feel like they should have explored that more. They should have had you go back to some people and like explored some more topics, kind of thing. Like, you can have the confidants end, but you can explore your relationships with these people, right? So
yeah. Personally, for me, oh, sorry, you want to say?
No, I was gonna be like, that's pretty much the criticism I would give for both games, to be honest.
Yeah, I have to agree, honestly. Like, and I've said this a number of times, but yeah, Persona 5 and Royal, out of all of them, it's just, this has been the most stressful game out of each one I've played, because it feels like the game wants me to do all of this in so little time, and it's just like, I don't know. I mean, like, in terms of what they could do more, I mean, for example, with the social stats, like, taking a page from one of their other IPs, Soul Hackers 2. There are certain prompts in that game where it's like you have conversations and you can up like your friendship or whatever, your connection level with your other members. Kind of having something like that for social stats. Like, hey, you want to get up your strength or your guts or whatever. Like, this is how much this costs, and this is how much you can get to this. Not having the player be in the dark about how long is it until I get to the point I need to is really, really helpful. But to, like, pull back to the whole thing if you were talking about with the whole social links and dropping them. Turns out, I actually looked into this as well a while back, but there actually was something like that where confidants would pretty much, if you weren't spending time with them or whatever, they would go to actually doubt you. And on one hand, I like that. I like that idea, and I do kind of wish that Persona 5 wasn't the only game currently in the bunch to actually remove the whole consequence of not actually spending time with other people. On the other hand, there's so many confidants in that game.
Yeah, I think you would have to, like, cut the thing like that.
Honestly, like, cutting the number down to a few core members, and in terms of romance, I'm just gonna say getting creative with, like, just how the romance plays out. Not necessarily, like, the types of, like, characters you can date in there, but more so, like, how, like, that all turns out. Like, in terms of, like, you know, it would kind of seem like a smack in the face, but I think, hey, maybe adding, like a character or a social link that is in the same vein of Akechi, is someone who's, like, acting to be your friend, but in return betrays you.
Yeah.
I think it would be interesting to see the reactions if you made that character a love interest. Just seeing them and, like, seeing them being head over heels for you and everything, like, you having the choice to either date them or just not be it. And if you date them, like, just seeing a scene where they betray you or stab you in the back, I honestly feel like it would make me feel like, in its own way, essentially being careful with who you decide to romance. Because that's kind of the problem I have with how Persona handles romance. Is just like, everybody pretty much is, the game wants to label that everybody is pretty much just, yeah, it's fine, you can, there's no real problem with anybody, it's your call, and that's fine. But at the same time, it's just like, I'm a firm believer in that not everybody is going to be right right in your life and everything. There are going to be people that don't have your best interests in mind and everything. And I think it's important. I don't know. I kind of like the idea of just having, like, a character or two that is just your choice on whether or not you want to associate yourself with them in game. So it's just, I think that would be nice to have, so that way it would feel like, hey, I don't have to do everybody, or hey, like, there are people that I don't want to actually rank up.
I guess you would have to be careful with that, because, like, what if that person really liked that character, and then that's just, like, a slap in the face kind of thing for, like, treating kindness.
Personally, for me, I have that, like, that dark... I don't know, maybe it's just my dark sense of humor. It's just like, good, let the hate flow through you.
Exactly. Maybe that's why I like Akechi so much, because you form an attachment to the person. He still hates your guts. But I feel like there's still, like, a bond between Joker and Akechi that, like, even though Akechi hates you and, like, it's a rival, it's more the fact that he hates the fact that you're better than him, kind of thing, right? He wants to be better than you, kind of thing. That's why he says, I hate you, I never want to lose to you, kind of thing. That feeling.
I still love, like, just the idea. I made this meme a while back. I don't remember if I showed you this, but it was a meme I made a while back of just, like, there was this meme of just, like, an animator took, like, a whole Knuckles being like, I was given the ability to think again after 15 years and I come to realization. I just like the idea of, like, just him being so pissed, and it's just like whatever Joker does is ultimately just to piss off Akechi just because it's funny.
Exactly. That's why we're doing this whole entire thing of Joker knowing exactly what's going on. Just having this meta moment where he's just like, been through this. I know exactly what's going on, and I'm going to basically just fuck around and have fun kind of thing. And that's why I think this version of Joker is perfect for Akechi, because now Joker knows, and Joker's gonna fucking have fun with it kind of thing. And
he pulls Jose to the side. Hey, by the way, and then Jose, oh, so you're the famous Pancakes. Did you teach him to call me that? Yes. Why? Because it's funny.
Yeah, I'm so excited for that moment where Akechi is in the van with everyone and they're talking about that scene with Pancakes and Akechi getting so pissed off. I'm so excited for that. If it ever shows up. If
We're
not,
fans
I
of
will show it.
That's what helps us figure out your bullshit.
Actually, well, while we're talking about that, for me, for that scene where it's kind of like, do you feel like Akechi's thing was revealed a little bit too early? Where he's talking about Pancakes and that. Do you think that his reveal should have been a little bit later? Like, once we were trying to get Akechi to work for us and he was backstabbing us kind of thing. I feel like we should have learned that Akechi wasn't that great later on, rather around that certain scene with the whole Pancakes thing. Like, I know it's funny, like it's hilarious that we find out about him through that. But I think for the reveal, it would have been so much better if we had just like there was a reveal later on. It felt like I think the game was trying to make so that you forgot about that scene. And nobody forgot about that scene. Like, even Kagura was just like, I don't like this. I don't like this. I know exactly what you are. And I don't do it. Kind of thing. So.
Yeah. I guess I'm in the minority because I forgot about it. But I will say this, to add on it, I think for me personally, it did its job. But, I mean, in terms of the reveal, I think it would have been more beneficial if, when it came to the whole thing of not selling out your comrades, you didn't hear his voice in his head. Because I feel like that's ultimately the major giveaway of who the culprit is.
Yeah.
And ultimately, when it came to the reveal, honestly, just with how it's written and how it plays out, I think, like, the whole matter of whether or not the Pancakes was, like, a major, like, giveaway too early, it's just the reveal and just how they explained and everything is overshadowed by just the reveal. Also, in Royal, I talked to Futaba after the events, should I, like, I don't know, do you know about, more so how the rest of what Futaba was going on about the whole, big deal on how they were going to get Akechi to reveal himself as, or do you not remember that?
I don't think I remember.
So,
like, if you explain it, I'm pretty sure I'll be like,
fun fact, Akechi died a total of 3 times. The first 2 times, obviously, in Shido's palace. The third time was when he shot the fake Joker in the Velvet Room, because they go out of their way to state that basically Makoto knocked cognitive Akechi the fuck out. They dressed him up as Joker, and they just waited. When I heard about that, I'm like, oh my fucking god, that is fucking great. I love that so much. like
that's, oh my gosh. That would have been so much funnier.
I just picture just Makoto just bashing his head in, and then them just taking a bag, throwing him over, and then just going to the basement. Oh man, but yeah, I mean, ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, if there's some things I could say in terms of what they could do for the future, I mean, making it a less stressful, more enjoyable and entertaining game through and through, even if they are going to make more re-releases, just making it more, just less of a hassle to deal with on a new game is, I honestly think, will be better. And also, if you're let's say if you're going to make a game about reforming society and everything, maybe don't try to have morally gray matters and subjects when you're trying to be black and white about it.
Exactly, right.
Like, the whole thing on the Phantom Thieves being good and evil. Okay, I can take that. But you're doing this with a teacher that sexually assaulted minors. You're doing it with an art celebrity that led his own student and foster son's mom to die. Like, yeah, I just don't do that. Like, hell, like, if I'll say this, if anyone's interested in, like, watching a series or, like, interested in a series that actually takes the idea of, like, improving or reforming society for the better, I would absolutely say watch Eden of the East. Because it gives, the premise of it is there are 12 individuals that are given 10 billion yen on a phone, and they're basically supposed to use it to improve the country. And what's interesting about it is you see the different solutions everyone comes up with. There's a doctor that decides, Japan was going to just ditch its elderly and just leave everyone who's old just in the dust. So I decided to create a hospital that benefited the senior citizens. I gave them free health care. I gave them residence to actually sleep at. Like, he expended all of his money on just a small plot in Japan to benefit the elders. There was a woman who was a serial killer who went around, like, kidnapping men, quote unquote, taking them for a night out, and then neutering them. And her whole solution was, I kill guys that are not necessarily right in society, and I replace them with a better person from overseas. Like, everybody has a particular solution to, like, improving the country, and the one thing I like about it is that no one solution is the right solution. It's all a matter of, like, because that's never the point of trying to find a solution, because improving the country, reforming society, that's a loaded question that doesn't have a right answer.
Right.
So I think the worst thing about it is saying that your answer is the right answer, which, in the grand scheme of things, I think I kind of commend Royal, at least for spelling out the obvious, because there is a scene early on with Akechi and Joker at a cafe with Kasumi, and I really love her line here, where it's like, I do think that they're good for society and what they're doing, but I can't agree with them because the Phantom Thieves are acting as a safety net for Japan's society. And
exactly.
If Japan needs to change for the better, how are they going to change when the Phantom Thieves are constantly acting like their safety net? Granted, they are needed and they're helpful for what they're doing, but in the long run, nothing's going to change. That's what I liked about in, like, those little tidbits, like stuff like that. That's kind of what I thought, maybe we could get more of that, more of understanding, like, more, like, just breaking down the idea of improving society and going more of it in a realistic sense and actually bringing in legitimate ideas instead of going, oh my god, this adult's a piece of shit, let's take him down.
Exactly.
It's like, for what it is, it's fine, but to act as if it's basically a template for how we should go about changing and improving society for the more, let's just say, I think it has done a negative effect on the internet.
Yeah, pretty much.
But
and people voicing their opinions about this. I stay away from Twitter.
Never wanting to take anyone else's opinions with, and everything. Always just wanting to hear what they want to hear.
Yeah, I agree with the whole entire, like, statement with Kasumi about being like, yeah, they're a safety net, and then I'm like, well, that's also hypocritical because she also doesn't want Maruki to change her memories, right? She was against the Phantom Thieves for wanting to save her and bring about being Samuri. But at the same time, you're asking her embrace the fact that she killed her sister. So yeah, that's hard. So I can understand why she was critical at that moment.
Yeah. And ultimately, I think we've talked so much about Persona 5 and Royal. We've got two things here I want to talk about. So ultimately, Persona 3 Reload is coming out. So ultimately, what are your thoughts on that?
I wasn't really big into Persona 3. I watched Kageto's Let's Play of it. But I think I would like to give it a shot. I kind of want them to remake Golden as well in like the Persona 5 like style kind of thing, so that I can actually play that game too. Because I tried playing it on my, I wasn't super big on it. When I played it there, I didn't really like the controls and all that. So I hope they give Persona 4 a shot too. But I'm willing to give 3 a shot as well, to see what it's like, because I'm excited, because I also like the characters from there as well.
Yeah. Ultimately for me, it's like I've said this, but Persona 3 personally for me, it's absolutely like it was the game that sort of like got me into it, but it was also looking back. I just love the story of 3. I love the world. I love just how big it felt. Yeah, it did have its flaws with its characters, and not the best written antagonists and villains in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
And some missed opportunities, granted. But I mean, Reload. I'm not hoping for Final Fantasy VII Remake levels of detail, but I'm hoping for like just more building on, like taking what they did with Persona 3 as it was sort of like it was an experiment. They were changing the waters, they were changing the formula of how they went about Persona, and ultimately its formula, while improving, it became a staple for the series going forward.
1 second, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, I was brought food.
Oh, okay. That's fine. That's fine. So, but yeah, like I was saying, ultimately it's just like Persona 3 was ultimately it is a game that essentially both it got Persona a lot more popularity, especially in the West, but it served as just the starting point for how the series was going to go forward. So, seeing it in a new light, going off of the original story, but also adding new stuff of what they were capable of doing with 5 going forward. Ultimately, I'm interested to see the new added stuff, the new changes. And at the very least, in the grand scheme of things, like, I mean, yeah, it is just, you could argue that, yeah, it's just Persona 3, but at the same time, just the new look and the new aesthetic and the new, ultimately, just what we're getting in terms of just visual appeal, I feel, honestly, for me, as someone who loves Persona 3, it will do a lot more than what Royal did as opposed to just adding stuff. But in the grand scheme of things, I mean, like I said, it's a make or break game, so Atlus, I'm just gonna say this right now, if you don't make the Answer DLC and you just decide to come out with Persona 3 Reload Final Mix featuring Dante for the Devil May Cry series, whatever the hell you want to call it. Whatever the hell you want to call it. If you come out with a re-release and it's literally just the Persona 5 Royal and Persona 4 Golden situation where I have to beat the entire game, then get to the answer, I'm out. I'm out. I'm out. I'm out.
Just give it to me.
I'm just like, because ultimately it's just trying to support Atlus and Persona. It's just financially problematic. I can't keep, especially with the rise in launch day prices, I can't keep buying the same game for 140 or more bucks. If like, if they want to release a DLC, I'll be generous. If they want to release a DLC for half the price of the launch day game, I'll be fine with that. I know it'll be, in the grand scheme of things, it might be overpriced to a lot of people, but if I do not have to buy the exact same game again for the $70, I'll be fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's,
okay. And the fact that we're dealing with a crisis in money doesn't really help either, right? Like, some people are going to be considering, hey, I want to play your video game, but I also want to. So.
You're kind of breaking in and out here.
Sorry.
That's okay.
It's kind of weird with Discord.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But. Yeah. I would say. Oh, that's why. Input sensitivity was on there. That should be better.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say, with this whole entire crisis thing, the money crisis, people are gonna be like, I want to play the game, but I can't because I also have to feed myself, or I have to pay rent, or this, that, or the other. Like, me and Kagado are really in a good situation where we're living in a place where I live with my parents. We both live with my parents right now. They feed us. They keep a roof over our heads at the moment. So we're kind of lucky in that regard. But I can't say the same for other people who are now struggling with money. Like
me.
Exactly. So yeah, we want to play your games, but can't afford it.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm just but can't really say too much about Persona 3 Reload, but ultimately, and since I did it last time on the podcast, ultimately I'd rather close it out with one final question, and it's ultimately, this is the part where I have to say what we're about to say here is entirely just everything that we say about this in regards to future events and everything purely coincidental. If we say anything that ultimately Atlus announces later on and it's like, oh my god, they called it. It's like, nope, we don't work for Atlus. We don't work for Atlus. We're not at the board table. It's all coincidence. So ultimately, any hopes or what do you want to look forward to for Persona 6 down the line?
Okay. I very much want them to continue this kind of theming where they're exploring more of the world kind of theming. I really like Persona 4's theming about the heart. About the whole entire TV world is the world's concept of what the world is about is through the TV world, and I want them to continue with that concept of people's cognition of the world. This is what they see the world as. Maybe not going into that gray area of changing people's hearts and all that, with Persona 4, with Persona 5, but at least exploring that topic more. This is the world's heart. This is what they're seeing, what they're experiencing, helping with people, this, that, and the other. Dealing with people who are dealing with great grief, or who are, I wouldn't say going back to the whole entire changing evil people kind of thing, because you don't really, I wouldn't say that the world, that's really the real world, is that there's evil people who do evil things. I think it's just people are misunderstood and they have big ideals, right? I wouldn't say that there's evil people who are me, I want to be evil kind of thing. There's just people who have ideals and want to see them through. Whether or not they see them through in the right way, I think that's what we need to explore, is that people have interesting ideals, but they just go about it the wrong way kind of thing,
Yeah. Personally for me, Persona 6, I don't know what to expect, but I've had this idea in terms of what I might think it might be later down the line. In the grand scheme of things, I kind of like the idea of more
going towards looking inside oneself as opposed to looking outwards towards society, kind of like what Persona 4 was doing. Like, my idea for like Persona 6 was this time around have more like personal based fears and phobias and traumas, like having characters around like dealing with PTSD, or having more characters around like stuff like, I don't know, like arachnophobia, or even simple fears like dealing with bullying, or not wanting to be alone.
Yeah.
Like, dealing with that in more of kind of like, essentially because Persona has a lot of Persona kind of has the ties between like, you know, dream, reality, mind, and matter. Actually going more to the idea of like the other world being a dreamscape, like going to like explore these like different dungeons that are heavily centered around like nightmares and horror centered like areas, like I don't know, like having a dimly like kind of like in Persona 5 Royal, that whole scene in the beginning when the third semester started, just walking through like that dark pitch black school, like having that, and then in something like that in Persona 6, and then mixing it together with this school actually tapping into a certain individual, like an individual that gets bullied, and having them come face to face with those events and having to deal with it, like that being a way to wake their persona, but also tapping into the idea of more so the idea that, you know, personas are a form of power, but what happens when the person who has the power can't control themselves? Like a particular, I don't know, a teenager who is going through some stuff. Like, having a kid who gets bullied, getting a persona, and then ultimately in this state of mind where he thinks, I have power, I have strength, no one's gonna hold me down anymore. And then that turning into like sort of a boss fight where you have to talk them down and try to coax them back to form of sanity. Like, something like that. And focusing more on that, focusing more on like mental foreplay and mental problems and issues, I really feel could elevate what ultimately was kind of the bar for what Persona was down the line. And it could ultimately do so much more and open to so many more ideas going down the line for Persona, because I like this game, and I like this series, and I really like when it wants to be more like psychological, when it wants to tap more into the inner psyche, when it wants to tap into someone's personality. I like when it taps into wanting to see what a person's true mind is, and I want to see that explored more. That's personally me.
Yeah, kind of like what they did with Strikers a little bit.
Yeah.
Rather than like basically making a evil person admit that they're doing evil things, it's more letting the person come to realization of their own faults, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And coming to terms of who they are as people. Because, again, in Strikers, we see bad people, people doing bad things, but instead of, like, them having an excuse, oh, I did this thing because I was bullied in the past, kind of thing. It was more nuanced about it. It was more, they had ideals, they wanted to pursue those ideals, they were just going about it the wrong way, kind of thing.
Yeah. Ultimately, I think just closing out, just some last things I want to say about Persona. Ultimately, I've been critical, but ultimately, yeah, I love Persona, and I just want to, and I criticize because I love it, and I just want to see it improve later down the line. It's just, like, I mean, I love the characters for the most part, and even more so, I love the acting. I love, like, in keeping in the vein of Persona 5, Max Millman as Ryuji, Erica Harlacher as Antakamaki, Jeremy Lay as Makoto,
Erica Lindbeck, sorry.
Yeah.
Erica Lindbeck, Futaba Sakura, Matthew
Yeah,
Mercer,
yeah.
Yusuke. So many actors, actresses, both on the side of good and the side of the villains, like, so many actors and actresses just giving their all for, like, Persona going down the line, just absolutely commendable, and it's just, I wanted to give that a shout out, and just, I love their performances, and honestly, like, I love this game, and I just hope going forward that it's not going to be a financial detriment to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Or just hoping that it's good, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that Atlas has at least nailed that. They've made good games.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what they do with Reloaded, and I'm excited to see what they do with the Persona series in general going forward. I think there's a lot more stuff that we can discover with this game. And hopefully it doesn't feel like it's a retread, because I know that some people complain about that, is that sometimes it feels like it's just a retread of the exact same thing over and over again. So I hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah. But yeah, ultimately I think that is going to do it. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, absolutely. If you, and just like, you know, if you want to like talk about Persona or anything like just later down the line, I mean, you can just let me know and we can talk about it. Set something up. But yeah.
Or if you wanted to talk about something else, I don't know. Like, the thing that I'm mostly into is like Hell of a Boss and like the Has Been series. That's another thing I've been really getting into.
We can talk about that. Hell, I mean, if that actually does go down and everything, I mean, I could invite you on if you wanted to just geek out.
Yeah. Sure.
And just out of, like, I know you said it, but just curious, like, you want to plug anything before we close out?
Just go watch Kageto. Please go watch Kageto.
Yeah, go watch
Kageto
Kageto.
the Final Boss on YouTube. Please go watch him.
Yeah. And, just thank everyone for joining me. Just please subscribe to me on YouTube. Check out more episodes of my podcast if you feel inclined. You can check me out on Twitch later tonight. I should be doing more Gravity Rush 2 on my own time. You can follow me on ArtStation, which the pictures you're seeing right now, they're going to be added to my portfolio, so you can see them when this episode airs. If you want to support me financially, you can donate to me at ko-fi.com/theartstosisha. I'm in the middle of rebranding my whole setup and everything for 2024, and I've already got some stuff out for what that's going to look like later down the line. If people want to go check that out, and if people want to pay me to play some games, I have a membership for that too. If you want me to draw anything or anything, you can feel free to commission me in the grand scheme of things. And ultimately, follow me on Instagram, follow me on Twitch and all that, and that's gonna do it for right now. So thank you all so much for joining me, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care and peace.
Cool.